1063.com.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue. I hope you're having a great day, a wonderful Wednesday morning here on Coast Vue. And this is the show, as you know, that celebrates coastal Mississippi and all the people who are making it such a wonderful place to live, work, and play. Hey, before we get to our guest today, let me share with something with you from my friend Susan Griggs, one of the more positive people I know. Something that actually kind of applies to a theme of today's show in a way, but here's what it says. Sometimes you have to eat your words, chew your ego, swallow your pride, and accept that you are wrong. It's not giving up. It's called growing up. I thought that was a really good one. I think we all know people who are supposed to be grown up but still need a good dose of humility. I did a search this morning, and I really encourage you to do it too. Just go to Google and say humility quotes, and then all kinds of amazing stuff will come up. But the first three quotes that popped up are these. Never look down on anybody unless you're helping them. The next one, it's a really great quote from C.S. Lewis, and it says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. And then the third one is, pride makes us artificial, humility makes us real. I dove in a little deeper, though, and found a couple that really stuck out to me. One is this one. True humility is staying teachable, regardless of how much you already know. You know, you've heard me say this on Coast Vue before, but I think that the more we learn, the more we better learn how much we don't know. that the journey of discovery and learning, just understanding what we don't know, keeps us really kind of real, keeps us very humble. And then lastly, this quote from Gandhi. It is unwise to be too sure of one's own wisdom. That actually got me thinking about something I shared with you a few weeks ago. I get a newsletter called Thinkers, Thinkr. And what it does is it summarizes really important books, very intelligently written books from all around the world. And one that I shared with you before was a book by Amy Grant. It's The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. And here is sort of what Thinker said about her book. We live in a culture that shudders at the thought of being wrong. Whether in the spheres of politics, sports, or daily life, most of us fail to see the areas in which we miss pertinent information. Despite our tendency to idolize correctness, if we want to know anything at all, we must recognize that we are often, if not always, incorrect. Professor of Organizational Psychology, Adam Grant, I said Amy, but Adam Grant, helps us along exposing the pitfalls of our culture's desire to know it all. Using wisdom from psychological studies and real-world examples, Grant implores us to shed our addiction to exactitude and revel in the knowledge that we hold in our heads. Revel in the knowledge that what we hold in our heads will never come close to completion. I love that because it's so true. Life is a journey of discovery. At the end of the day, I think social media helps embolden people, and it gives us a tendency to sort of lean toward a false sense of security around what we know. It's just something to think about. Really something really well to think about. So now let's turn to my friend Ashley Edwards, the CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council, and just say good morning. How are you doing, Ashley?
Hey, I'm doing great, Ricky. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Hey, listen, I saw you did a quote. I did a post about COVID in the last day or so, and so did I. I did one last week, and a lot of comments and whatever. But let me, real quick, from the Morning Brew newsletter, this is one of the many newsletters I get in the morning that kind of help boil down what's going on in the world. Here's what it said. In the U.S., which is more or less fully reopened for business, cases rose 47% cases of COVID last week, the biggest increase since April 2020. Experts warn that the number of deaths could rise soon in unvaccinated areas of the country. But for now, they're down 27% nationwide through 2 weeks. In Mississippi specifically, cases as of Monday, July the 12th, new cases 796. It's a new trajectory. new deaths. 2, the percentage of fully vaccinated is 31. By the way, I had Ron Barnes, CEO of Coast Electric, on yesterday, and he said that they're currently inside Coast Electric dealing with what he referred to as a pretty good outbreak that has occurred since July the 4th. So I think July the 4th was sort of it planted the seed of the Delta variant in a lot of cases. But I think one of the things I see in the post that I did and the post that you see as well, and I mentioned this in my conversation with Ron, is there seems to be a lot of people who still buy into some conspiracy theories about the vaccine. And more importantly, though, they're spending a lot of energy trying to convince other people why they shouldn't get it. Now, my point of view is right there with Dr. Conger, and that is give people the information they need. Make sure they're fully informed, and then they'll make a choice. But when they're making their choices off bad information, that's what's kind of mind-boggling. And last point I want to make, and then I'll see what you have to say about this. The Kaiser study that I shared last week, a really good study, incidentally. It's bias rating is least bias, factual reporting high. This is a study with extraordinarily high credibility. It says, unfortunately, that the number of people who are still undecided is relatively low. But as long as we've got a percentage of society that we can convince, we'll still be talking about it on this show. But getting the best and most accurate information out there seems to be a challenge, doesn't it, Ashley?
It's a challenge. I think you hit on a really important point, and that is, you hear a lot of I call them anti-vaxxers, and perhaps they're not really against vaccinations. Some certainly are, but oftentimes what you see, especially on social media, is the argument is they're saying, look, we don't want anyone forcing a vaccine on us. We believe in personal choice. Well, personal choice is the status quo in this situation. No one is going to be forced to take a vaccine. So it then sort of leads to the question, so what exactly are you arguing against? There's no need to advocate for personal choice here because that's already the law of the land. And I think that, what you say is absolutely correct. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. I've mentioned on your show before, and I think it bears saying again, under the Trump administration, the State Department put out a really interesting report, and they were talking about how adversaries of the United States, Russia and China especially, also Iran, were using social media to try to undermine confidence in the vaccine, to try to undermine confidence in the American government's response. Those were all things that they were doing. I mean, it's information psychological warfare, and it's sort of the new front of this information Cold War that we're in. And in often cases, people will say, well, I've seen my friend who's a nurse or so-and-so say to be careful of the vaccine. And that may be true, but the question is, where did they get that information? Is it coming from, some information factory in Beijing, China, that has been funded by the Chinese government specifically to try to target American opinions on things like the vaccine to weaken the country? I mean, that almost sounds conspiratorial. I understand that. But the State Department has confirmed that is what's going on. And I think that it's important for people to really dig deep within themselves and ask themselves, is this really a concern about the vaccine, or is this just sort of jumping on this bandwagon of I wouldn't call it counterculture, but, almost the contrarian point of view, the sort of cynical point of view that is so popular on social media. And that is very tempting to some people, this sort of contrarian position from the establishment, quote unquote. And that's exactly what folks that have an agenda are seizing upon. The people that are telling folks on social media not to get a vaccine, they are not looking out for your interest. They're not looking out for the public's interest. We have the tools here to really put a period at the end of the sentence on COVID-19, and we're just simply not using them. And it's a tough thing to watch, Ricky, because a year ago I would have thought, with the speed at which they were getting the vaccine ready, that people would take it in droves as soon as it was ready, so that they could get back and enjoy their life. I think what we see now is that a lot of people are back enjoying their life as they were before COVID-19, and they're just ignoring the fact that it hasn't gone away. And with things like the Delta variant, we've got to continue to be vigilant.
Yeah, what's important about the Delta variant, we've heard officials in this state say that 1/3 of Mississippians have been vaccinated. Probably a third, they estimate, have had COVID, either reported or maybe not reported. We didn't know, but they're estimating about a third. So it's essentially saying that 2/3 of Mississippians have some kind of protection. But the important thing to note, there may have been a time when it was true we could think that way, at least over the short term. But what we've learned now is that the Delta variant doesn't care if you have natural immunity or not. Natural immunity does not protect you against the Delta variant. So we're back to where we started, which is 1/3 of Mississippians are vaccinated. Hey, when we come back, I just want to point a couple of interesting things out in this study that was done by Kaiser. And we'll have some final thoughts about the vaccine, and then we'll move on to see what the latest is at the Gulf Coast Business Council. We'll be back after this break.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I'm having a conversation with the CEO of the Business Council, Ashley Edwards. Really smart guy, extraordinarily well in tune with the latest on a number of different subjects, and a man who's also very humble. You know, going back to the way I started the show today about humility. Hey, look, I want to just share a couple of things. First of all, I keep referring to this Kaiser study. It is really a gold standard. I'll put a link to the Kaiser study at the Ricky Matthews / Coast Vue site. We'll also put this on the SuperTalk Gulf Coast site if you want to go look at that study. It's really incredible. Here, okay, total in America, 65% as of the time they did this study. And you start to look at it, 65 and older, which is the vulnerable group, 85% of those 65 or older have been given the coronavirus. So just that fact alone, the vaccine, just that fact alone is very positive. And even with the Delta variant sort of taken off, it's going to reduce the number of deaths because more of the vulnerable class have been given the vaccine. That's not a reason not to get the vaccine, incidentally. Let's see. Black, 60%, white, 67%, Hispanic, 63%, less than college, 59%, college, 79%. And here's the interesting thing. Republicans, only 52%, independents, 61%, and 86% of Democrats. You read into that whatever you want to read into that. This is the alarming one when you get into sort of the political realm. Democrats, only 2% of Democrats said they're not going to get it. 23% of Republicans say they're not going to get it, 16% of independents. And then when you look at those that are still open-minded, 7% of Democrats, 12% of Republicans, 12% of independents. It's so interesting. And I had this great exchange, and I hope that Dr. Conger will be on soon, this exchange on the phone, over the phone this morning with Dr. Conger. And he said it's just really sad when medicine is politicized. It's so sad when this should not be a politicized thing. This should be something we can all, we gather the information about the vaccine, we make a decision about our personal choice, and to what extent we're willing to make those around us vulnerable. We make that choice based on good information, but not on politics, for goodness sake. Any closing thought, Ashley, before we move on?
Well, look, it's hard sometimes to get into the psychology of these things. I will tell you this, Ricky, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, the greatest sort of a male American failure of the modern era is the fact that we have allowed a virus and a vaccine for that virus to become so uber politicized. Some of that, I think, has to do with the fact that this came about during an election year, which was the worst possible time that it could have come about. Had this happened in the first year of a presidential term, it may have been a little bit of a different public narrative over the course of the year. The only thing I think we can ask people to do is, think holistically about the situation, understand the motivations of people that are both encouraging and advocating for you to get the vaccine and the people who are advocating against it, and understand that, every public health authority in the world recommends getting this vaccine. I have great empathy, Ricky, for people who say, look, I don't want to give my children a vaccine that's not been approved by the FDA. I'm a parent. I understand how difficult a parent's decision is when you have to determine, whether or not to put a medicine in your child that could have some side effects, or let them sort of roll the dice and get the COVID-19 vaccine. But I'll note the Mississippi Department of Health came out today and said that there are a number of children who are now in ICU units with the Delta variant. It's hitting children much harder. Of course, if you're under 12 years old, you're not approved to take the vaccine yet. And so that's even more reason for all of us, frankly, who can take the vaccine to make sure we're taking it, because our immunity, our ability to stop the spread of this virus will protect our children. And, if that is truly your concern, I have empathy for it. And I ask you just to consider the fact that vaccine might prevent your child from catching it from you and getting very ill.
As our friend Lee Bond from Singing River Health Systems has said many times on this show, it's time for us to be selfless.
Yes.
Selfless. It's not just about evaluating our own health, but it's evaluating the potential health of those around us, our loved ones, and that's really important. And The last thought is that we're dealing with the Delta variant now, which, again, if you've had COVID before but not the vaccine, you're not protected against Delta variant. That's the variant we're dealing with now. But a month or two from now, we might be dealing with another variant. See, the reality of COVID is it looks for hosts so it can mutate. And the more hosts there are, the more opportunities there is for it to mutate. And so this is a set scenario. We probably are going to be living with COVID being around for a long time. And in the meantime, we just have to be smart about how we battle it. And this particular strain is extremely contagious, and it's also deadly. And we just have to be aware of it. Enough about that. Just do your research. Just keep in mind, the more you learn, the more you better learn how much you don't know. We never arrive. And as I mentioned from Adam Grant a few minutes ago, that don't be addicted to exactitude when it comes to the vaccine. Just do your research, and hopefully you'll make the right decision. Dr. Conger said he's seen the ramifications of getting COVID, and he would much rather take the risk of getting the vaccine. That's where Dr. Conger is on that. So We'll switch gears. The Business Council, there's never a dull moment. You guys are involved on so many fronts simultaneously. Why don't you kind of give me a quick update?
So I'll tell you one of the things I'm most excited about that we're really launching into here. And, we're trying to determine how best to fill this gap in terms of talent attraction. When I say talent attraction, I'm talking about something a little bit different than traditional economic development, because rather than going out and trying to attract the direct investment, we're trying to attract a talented workforce that can help draw these companies in, whether they're tech companies or companies that are looking for engineers or scientists or computer programmers, other things like that. And we're really trying to fill that gap. There are some great best practices models around the country. You look at what's happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with their incentive program to try to bring remote workers in. It's been incredibly successful. And so we're starting to really work on some of those things. And I'm really excited about that. One of the other things that we're, jumping into right now very heavily is preparing for our State of the Coast Economy program that will take place in the fall in November. And I think it's going to be an interesting report this year, Ricky, because, one thing I can say, and I think this underscores your point about why it's so important to get the vaccine. Economically, in coastal Mississippi, we have fared incredibly well, certainly much better than anyone would have possibly thought that we would at the beginning of COVID-19. And, it's amazing to see that, our casinos are having record months in some cases now. The economic momentum is incredible, and it's something to celebrate. You look at how Mississippi Gulf Coast has done compared to Las Vegas, for example, another big gaming market. There's virtually no comparison. I mean, we've been one of the most successful tourism markets in the country post COVID-19, and I think it's important for us to be able to remain in that position. The last thing that we want is for people to feel like it's unsafe to come here because so many of the folks in our population are not vaccinated. I mean, that is a killer. That not only hurts businesses, it hurts the workers, the employees who depend on those customers coming in. So, it could not be more important for us to continue the economic momentum that we're seeing. And this will be one of the first times, frankly, that a place like Mississippi or a region like the Gulf Coast actually leads a economic recovery in the United States. And that's an incredibly great position for us to be in and a great story to tell.
Yeah, coming back to the first point you made about the way that economic development is doing, certainly economic development organizations are still seeking specific companies or industries or whatever. What continues to be done. But something we talked about on this show so many times before, that the emergence of the new economy and the creative class, this could be computer programmers, or it could be lawyers, could be copywriters, could be graphic artists. There's a large number of potential people who fit that description. The goal of where we're headed is to build the kind of places these people want to live in. This is really important. And by attracting those skill sets, you can ultimately, certainly some of them may be remote workers. They might actually live in Mississippi and work for a company in California. But if it's like, for example, if you were to attract a large number of technology skilled positions or people, then that would actually create an opportunity to really go and attract a business that fits that description into the area, because that actually today, that's a big part of their selection criteria, and that is there a able workforce there? Really important, isn't it?
Incredibly important. It's probably the main story that I tell when I speak to groups, and that is the biggest change that we have seen in the past 20 years in America is that people no longer go where the jobs are. Now the jobs go where the talented people are. They go locate where the workforce is. I mean, Nashville, Tennessee, and Austin, Texas are leading the United States in corporate relocations. And I guarantee you that's not happening because they're in a low cost of living environment or an environment that has a lot of carrying capacity for expansion. That's happening because that's where the workforce that they want to attract is living.
Ashley, I've enjoyed visiting when you're coming to the end of the segment, but you've got a great steering committee. Your current president is William Yates from Yates Construction, and you've got a number of major CEOs on it's probably one of the strongest executive committees that we've had at the council since we formed it. And I congratulate you on having such a great team to work with. When we talk next, we'll talk a little bit more about what the executive committee is all about. And until then, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Ricky. Have a great day.
When we come back, we have Julian Rankin from the Walter Anderson Museum.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard. And,
Wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show
on Super Talk Mississippi. Super Talk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on Super Talk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue, and I really appreciate you coming back and joining us. I had a lot of fun talking to Ashley Edwards, and by the way, that was a really serious conversation talking about the coronavirus and the vaccine and where we are. And, my goal is just to ask people to have an open mind and do your own research and don't be convinced without information to make whatever decision you decide to make. And if you missed that conversation, you can go to the Super Talk Gulf Coast Facebook page or the YouTube page, or go to your favorite podcast and listen. I think you'll be glad you did. Now we're going to shift gears and move over to my friend Julian Rankin, who's the director of the Walter Anderson Museum, and really one of my favorite people on the coast. Last time I saw him, he came over and we went in a boat together to have lunch with Kenny Vess from our station and just visit for a bit. So it's been a while since we visited. I just wanted to, first of all, see how you're doing. What's the latest in your world?
Well, we're doing good. I miss our boat trips for sure, but it's been a lot of rain, staying dry, and trying to run this cultural institution.
The rain.
Been good.
The rain. Rain, and more rain. I think we're actually headed toward a stretch of maybe some drier weather. Let's hope. We've got a high beginning to build in, more afternoon thunderstorms instead of all day long thunderstorms. But, Julian, you once described Ocean Springs as heritage meets hip. I just love the way you say that. And I've had an opportunity to be in Ocean Springs several times recently. I'll be there again tonight. Man, you just feel it on the street. Life's back in Ocean Springs, isn't it?
It is, and that moniker, which I can't take full credit for, that was a kind of a copywriting collaboration that we did, but it's really based on the small business community here and just the sense of place, which we talk about a lot, of course. But it is that not just heritage meets hip, the past and present, but the private sector and the incubation of all these cool businesses, and you see, everything coming back online, which is really exciting. And then also just the sense of place that we, of course, celebrate here at the museum. So it's great to see people outside and outdoors. And again, the built environment and the live oaks, it's all coming together very nicely. And like you say, when it's not raining, it's bustling.
You and I, when we visit, we talk about what's happening at the Walter Anderson Museum. We talk a lot about sense of place. We talk a lot about the state. I mean, you came from, your last gig was in Jackson. You've written a book about a really good book that took place in the Mississippi Delta. You know that really well. I had an opportunity to visit just in the last couple of days on Coast Vue with Bill Luckett from the Ground Zero Blues Club. And, my goal is, and I've written about this, that I'm wanting to connect the coast to the Delta more, because at the core of us, there's a real sense of resilience that we share, them through years of all kinds of struggles, but especially as it relates to weather and agricultural challenges and all of that. And of course, us down here, hurricanes, the places couldn't be any different in terms of, what you sense when you're there or here, but the people are very similar. And I talk about the Delta a lot, just simply because as a state, we'll never overcome our challenges if we don't overcome the challenges of the Delta. That's important for people to know that. But Bill Luckett is a wonderful historian, and his collaboration with his other owners and Morgan Freeman on the Ground Zero Club, about to open up another one here in Biloxi, which is exciting. We can't say enough about the important role that blues plays in this state, can we?
No, it's critical, and it goes back to just this idea of what Mississippi was built on. And I love the notion of the Delta and the coast having a kindred connection. The Delta has been called the most southern place on earth. And of course, for those not from Mississippi, some people think it's the river Delta, at the bottom of the river. Of course, it's not. It's more towards the north and the west. But here we are, the most southern geographical place in Mississippi. And I think both regions, the Delta and the coast, are regions apart in some ways from the state. I mean, they have if you live there, you have an identity to that place, perhaps even more than you do to, the state itself. And we are so here on the coast tied to, Mobile and New Orleans. If you're in the Delta, you're just as tied to Helena, Arkansas as you might be to the capital city of Jackson, perhaps more so. And both are governed by these waterways that are so life-giving and powerful. And sometimes that's to of course, the detriment of the things we build and the agriculture and the fields and the commerce. But as you say, it's about resilience, and the blues were birthed of that. And so I think it's a great connection to draw again to that culture, that it continues to teach us how we can move forward when we do have challenges, whether those are natural disasters or some other type of challenge that affects us. We can draw strength from our art forms.
As you normally do, you said that so well. Thinking about the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and Eric Clapton and Bob Dylan and Keith Richards and a long list of artists that have been touched. And he said, it's interesting, and you already know this because you're in tune with this, but 50% of the people who go to Clarksdale, to the Ground Zero Blues Club, 50% are not from the U.S. They're coming from especially Europe, especially Great Britain, but from Holland and Australia and all these places. And it's interesting when you think about people like Kingfish, one of the young men, 21 years old, that came out of actually was a product of the Mississippi Blues Museum, program, arts program, and he discovered blues and became this kind of worldwide sensation. But when Kingfish goes to Europe, I mean, he's like a mega star. It's incredible. And there are others, blues musicians. He talked about this one that goes there to Europe and is treated like a king. And when he comes back to the Delta, he drives a truck, a petroleum truck. And not that there's anything wrong with driving a petroleum truck, but the point he was making is that, that there is such a deep appreciation for blues music, maybe more so than we even have here. I think we kind of take it for granted in some respects, don't we?
Yeah, and that's a story you'll hear a lot, and certainly in terms of tourism, and to tie the coast back to the Delta, so many of the people that come through our doors are folks who've never been either to the museum before or perhaps to coastal Mississippi, and so much of that traffic comes from out of state. Certainly, even if it's in state, it's not along the coast, and then we get people from all over the country and the world down here. But traditionally, especially with the blues, when you read about the history, and it's true of writers as well, when they would go to France or elsewhere and be welcomed with open arms, and then go back home and have to deal with whether that was poverty or just the kind of the mundane challenges of living. But I think it's a reason why we should continue to be proud of these art forms, but also realize that our calling card in Mississippi, whether that's being on the coast and the things we have here, or in the Delta, or any region really, is sent far afield. And so we need to cultivate and preserve the culture that we have locally and enjoy it locally, but also know that it's what's driving people to come visit us as well. And so it's a multiplier in that way economically.
Of course, Craig Ray and I have talked about this, and I mentioned it in my conversation with Bill Luckett, but we have 11 blues markers from the Blues Trail here in coastal Mississippi from Bay St. Louis all the way over to Moss Point. But, this largest open air museum probably in the United States through the Blues Trail, which is incredible. And of course, we have the Civil Rights Trail and other trails as well, but it's really magic. And it's all about having such a strong appreciation for the role that Mississippi plays, in this particular case, in the music scene around the world. But we don't have to venture far in coastal Mississippi to see how art in general, particularly as it relates to Walter Anderson, to think about the way that he spread a message of inspiration about the landscapes of coastal Mississippi to the world. Really, it's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about France. In the 1920s, Anderson was traveling to France, and he visited the museums, but he was more attracted and taken with the cave paintings, these marks of 20,000-year-old artists that he was so inspired by, and decided he wanted to become a muralist. And of course, you see the record of that here at the museum. And talking about the Mississippi River, Anderson was, we know he was a seafarer and loved to go to the barrier islands, but he also canoed on the river with his wife in the 1930s. And there's this wonderful anecdote from her memoir where she records that Anderson dipped his hat into the Mississippi River and drank some of the water and called it a distillation of America. And it is true, both physically, that it drains all these states from across the country, but also culturally, it's a distillation of really all we are as humans here in the North American continent, and certainly as an American citizenry, that the Mississippi River is really the soul of America, and it drains, of course, down here to the Gulf. So there's this wonderful connection, and Anderson gave voice to that. I mean, I think, again, it's important for us to go back and relive and remember the people who came before, and then to reinvent these legacies and put them back into play in our contemporary environments, especially as it relates to tourism.
Yeah, and as it relates to kids, and inspiring kids to hopefully embrace the art, so that the next generation of great artists, we never know where they're going to be. And I know you spend a lot of time in terms of outreach to kids. That's so important. I mean, the Blues Museum has done it. That's how you find incredible blues musicians like Kingfish. But that, I guess, as you pointed out, the art form comes in different flavors. And the opportunity the Walter Anderson Museum has to touch children and hopefully inspire the future Walter Anderson is pretty a powerful commitment that you guys have around that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I'll just tease something we can get into in a minute, but we're about to launch a free membership program for all of the students in the lower 6 counties, and it's part of what you're saying is how do we get them into the museum and get that access increase so that they can really appreciate what they have.
We'll come back on the other side of the break, and we'll talk more about that. This is Julian Rankin, who's the executive director of the Walter Anderson Museum of Art in Ocean Springs, and we'll see you after this break.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
We're back. I have Julian Rankin with us. He's the director of the Walter Anderson Museum of Art in Ocean Springs, and he once said, "I share with Walter Anderson a belief in the sacred interconnectedness between people, nature, and the vitality of communities." What a powerful statement. But part of the vitality of communities is to pass the love of art, to start to teach the love of art to kids. And I heard what you said as we went into the break. What an amazing possible strategy you guys have developed there. Tell me more about that.
So yeah, we're about to announce, but I'll just give you all a little teaser, and it's actually available now on our website for those who are interested. But we are launching a free membership program for the lower 6 counties here in coastal Mississippi for students and educators as well. But any student who wants to have a free membership to the museum, which of course means free admission year round and some other fun little perks, can sign up. All they do is either themselves or their caretaker can enter their information so we can keep in touch, and then they can come and enjoy this at their leisure. And I think that's a really critical thing. I mentioned earlier that so much of our traffic comes from beyond Ocean Springs, which is a benefit of being in a tourist hub. But we want to remember that Walter Anderson, both in his art and his philosophies, was very civic minded and wanted people to have access to beautiful things. That's why he made the block prints that he propagated so widely for affordable prices. And so this membership program is a way to recognize that the community has built this museum over the last 30 years. As we celebrate our 30th anniversary, we want to launch this program to give back and let any student and educator know that this is a resource for them to both just enjoy and appreciate, but also to take back into their classrooms and enhance their education.
Powerful program, man. That's very powerful. Give me a sense of other events that are coming up at the Walter Anderson Museum.
So we're launching a new community event called Magic Hour, just a kind of a fun concert series, free admission again. The next one's coming up on July 22nd. We're going to start doing this at least quarterly and hopefully eventually start it monthly. But it's free admission, again, music, food, drink, just a way to get the community out. As you know, we're expanding our campus across the street. We've finished phase 1 of the Creative Complex project. So as we start to expand our campus, we want to start this new series of events where people can start to come and see what's going to be happening over there, and start to push traffic across Washington Avenue to our educational facilities over there. So that's coming. We have new exhibitions coming here soon in August, and really just a whole suite of programs. I could go down the line, a free childhood story time activity. We're getting back online monthly here. So as you've alluded to with COVID, while it's still a growing concern in some respects, we've been fortunate as a community to be able to welcome people back in, and all these events, it's like turning the spigot back on. There's a lot of things coming down the pipe.
Hey, I'm actually curious now that sort of things are back on track for the museum. Do you notice about the people who visit there that there's more of an appreciation for it than there was before, or do you notice any difference in what you hear from people when they visit the museum?
I think one thing, and this is irrespective of whether they come through the doors or whether we're interacting with them in the community while we're living our lives, is people are just grateful that we're here, and obviously that we withstood the challenges of COVID, but also that arts and culture, as we've alluded to, and especially for a city like Ocean Springs and certainly the coastal region, to have museums here that are still, spreading the good news and being inspirational. And definitely when people come in the doors, and this is true of tourists and locals, they're really glad to be able to come inside. The museum feels safe. It's always felt welcoming and warm, and it's a sense of normalcy. And, earlier in the spring, we had a wonderful Luther Dickinson concert. He's a musician who performs here each year, inspired by Walter Anderson's art. And that was a perfect evening weather-wise, and the relaxing of masks had just happened, and you could feel the catharsis of the community coming out to that outdoor concert. And so we are seeing that on a small scale every single day as people come in with their spouses or their kids or small groups. And it's important for us to be here and to continue to show, why this museum exists, which is that art really can uplift and energize folks.
I do think, as you pointed out, the museum is such a great fit for downtown Ocean Springs. And when Ann and I had dinner there last Thursday night, after we had dinner, we just decided to go for a walk. And we walked just around town, ran into some friends we hadn't seen in a long time, and just, people with their families, some of them had gone to Pop Brothers and got them a popsicle, and they're just enjoying being downtown. And it just has such a great vibe to it, man. For people who haven't been there during the evening, I would encourage you to go have dinner there and just walk around and get a sense of just how special it is. I mean, the same things happen in just about every community. I can't help but think about Bay St. Louis and what's happening there. The art community there is thriving. And what I love about what you guys are doing is that our communities are communicating with each other. So you're inviting your patrons to go drive down to the beach and go to the other one. We've got less than a minute left, Julian, but you can have the last word.
Yeah, I'll just pick that up and say that people really should obviously come see us, but really enjoy all of the different communities that are doing interesting things. I'll just kind of give you a tip if you're out there wondering what to see next. Go to Studio Waveland, which you mentioned Bay St. Louis, right down the road in Waveland. There's a huge sculpture exhibition up by the people who are running a gallery that you might never have heard of in Studio Waveland, and it's happening everywhere across the coast. So just know that we're here, always here, but there's a million other things to do. Arts and culture is alive and well.
What a story of resilience Waveland and Bay St. Louis have to tell. What an amazing story of resilience. Anyway, Julian Rankin, you're a good friend, man. I appreciate the work that you're doing. You're every time I hear you speak, I'm inspired, and makes me want to even focus more about the sense of place and the role that art plays in all of that. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.